But I'll keep
I think I fixed it.
Okay.
Yeah,
She'll let us know.
Yeah, Christin, let us know, please. Thanks.
Yeah, so a lot of uncertainty in the market, but that's not stopping from people from if the house is right and the price is right, it's gangbusters. It's the ones that need some work, maybe aren't as aesthetically, done up as the nice ones. Those are kind of sitting a little bit. Is at least from my side of it. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, we're seeing quite a bit of activity. We're seeing a lot of aggressive. Now it's an echo.
Yes.
Jeez, we can't win. That's not good because the typical things that would cause an echo are off. Wait, I bet you it might be this. Okay, now
there's no echo.
We'll see. Well, it takes about 6 seconds before there's a delay on the video, so we'll see. Without Christin here, we're a technical mess.
Yeah,
but thank God she's still here in spirit.
Still listening. Yep.
Thanks, Christin.
Thank you.
Take a peek too, see if she's given an indication.
Fixed. Yes. Yay! Thank you, Christin.
We did it. Well, good thing we didn't get through. Sometimes we get through the whole show and realize, oh shit, we weren't even. Oops, I'm not supposed to say that on the air. 6 second delay. No, we're not supposed to. We weren't recording any of that. So, and those have always been the best shows too. The ones we have no proof of.
Right.
Anyway, it's been interesting. It's kind of weird. I want to go back to this thing with. It was SpaceX, right? Not Starlink. SpaceX sent a rocket, a private rocket.
Yep.
It's kind of like the Uber of space travel now. Yet for 10 months, NASA couldn't do it. Right. I don't know what's involved in something like that. But the fact that you can call up a company and say, "Hey, you got a spare rocket to send to space to pick up people and bring them back." I'll tell you what I didn't like. I was watching one news report. And they showed a headline from, I'm not going to name the the news outlet, but you could probably guess. The headline said, Musk sends rocket to space without exploding. Like, that's their headline.
Yeah.
Not Musk saves 2 astronauts who have been stranded for 10 months.
Right.
Musk sends rocket to space without exploding. I am so sick of the political bend in the media. And I'll be honest, I think the reason those people weren't sent home sooner was political.
100%.
I think it was 100% political. They did not want Musk to have that win, so to speak.
Yeah, I was reading an article where he was talking about that, and this could have been taken care of months ago.
Yeah, he said within 3 months it was ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that article that you're talking about, I mean, it's a dig at some of the other test trial runs they've had with some of their other rockets that have not gone great. I mean, it takes sometimes a few times to fail to get it right. And I think that's just a dig at some of the other failures that we've seen with some of the other rockets that have exploded. But yeah, thankfully this one didn't. But yeah, that's a really crappy headline. It's like, come on. Yeah. He did a great thing for our country. I mean, we should all be proud of that. Look, we got these guys, these people back from outer space. Like, that's a good thing. How do you spin that into a negative?
Right. That's American innovation.
Right.
Going back 150 years, American innovation, American industrialism, American opportunity to create this type of thing that happens. We should all be proud of that.
Right. And at a fraction of the cost of what NASA, taxpayer money.
Yeah. He figured out how to use all of the booster.
Right.
How to capture it. Did you see the videos of it landing?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
And these robot arms come out and just we got you.
Yeah.
It's like incredible.
It's like Mr. Miyagi with his chopsticks on the fly, just grabbing it, it's like this, 1,000-ton or however many, I don't even know how heavy it is, just, coming and landing perfectly in the right spot at the right time with the right.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
And look back on the original space race. Russ, you remember this. The Gemini program. The Gemini program was all about, okay, let's send a rocket to do one thing and hope it works and then bring it back. Then we'll send a rocket and do another thing. It's all incremental testing of the functionality of our technology. And then, even when the first time they went to the moon, they didn't land on the moon. They went to the moon, brought the thing down, and said, okay, now bring it back, because they needed to test all the functionality. And we had massive disasters. Yeah. The U.S. government, NASA, major explosions. Look what happened with the
Challenger.
The Challenger.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Yeah, we watched that live when I was a child in school.
Me too,
it was
5th grade.
Horrific.
Yeah, that was horrific.
Yep, that was terrible. And here's the other place where Americans excel in the ability to come up with tasteless jokes. Like, that was my first experience where 10 minutes after the disaster, you're hearing all the tasteless jokes going around about, the thing. But whatever. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Welcome home.
Yeah,
I don't remember the names.
right.
Sunny something, and Gilbert or something. I don't know. But anyway, they definitely looked happy to be home. I got to say that.
Yeah.
Although I kind of was it was fun watching that lady's hair in weightlessness. Kind of like it almost looked like an Elvira thing, with the hair flying all over the place. Yeah. So I'm gonna try a new thing this week with video. We're gonna see if this works. We've kind of revised how we do the Market Minute. So we're gonna get started with my favorite part of the show, our Market Minute. So here you go. Oops.
The Market with Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Okay, so this is Well, we're not going to do that. Our sound is gone again. Thank God Kristen's paying attention.
Yeah, right.
So that stream. So, technical difficulties, please stand by. We're not going to do the Market Minute then because that was my only prep, so I can't. Yeah, so for some reason, I don't have the audio input capture on that. I'm going to see if we can. See what happens with that. That might work. So, Kristen, we're going to give you that 6-second delay and see if that works. We're getting close here.
Yeah, we're right there.
Yeah,
we're about to bring the astronauts home.
I know,
right here. That's it.
Elon Musk can send a rocket to space, and I can't even figure out how to get the sound to work on my radio show.
She did say "Welcome back," LOL.
Okay,
and
awesome,
she can
good.
hear us now. Yay!
Awesome, great. Okay, cool. So we're gonna try that again. So this is the Market Minute. Antioch with 5.4 million in sales. And Sly, by the way, I noticed you kind of you didn't want to interrupt me, but feel free. You got something like that, go ahead.
Gotcha.
Just send it going.
I don't know what the protocol is in that situation.
Yeah. We're not a formal show.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm just catching you in my peripheral. Why does Sly look weird?
Yeah, gotcha. All right, we're good.
Antioch with 5.4 million in sales the past week. Week over week increase of 94%. Month over month at 81.9%. Year over year up 14.8%. Antioch sitting on a 1.78 month supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold was $160,000 with a high of $1.9 million. $399,000 is the median sales price. Average market time in Antioch is 30.9 days, and the prior week was 41. So it's gotten considerably better by about 10 days. There we go. Now on over to Volo, Fox Lake, and Ingleside, where they had 4.1 million in sales. That's really good for the Fox Lake area. That's a 230% increase week over week, but month over month down 41%. Year over year up 16%. Only a 1 month supply of inventory. Lowest price home sold was $125,000 with a high of $1.5 million. $390,000 was the median sales price, which is better than a year ago by 8%. 29 days is the average market time, which is also down 10 days from the prior 4 weeks where it was 38 days market time. Now on over to Grays Lake, Wildwood, and Idle. Idlewood, where they had $3.4 million in sales in the past week, 48% increase over last week, 49% decrease over last month. Year-over-year increase of 8%. 1.5 month supply of inventory, 269,000 was the lowest priced home sold. 879 was the high, with a median sales price of 462,000. 43 days is the average market time in the Grays Lake area, which is about double where it was last month, where it was only 22 days. Now on over to the Gurnee and Wadsworth area, where they had $2.2 million in sales this past week, an increase of 100% over last week. About half as much as last month, where there's 56% drop. Year-over-year increase, though, of 22.4%. Only a 3/4 month supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold was $125,000, high of $520,000. Median sales price of $387,000. Sitting on a nice, quick average market time of only 31 days, also down from 40 last month. Now on over to Lindenhurst and Lake Villa, where they had just under $4 million in sales this past week, which is a drop from last week of 22%, drop of 30% from last month, but 19% better than a year ago. 1.8 months supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold was $167,000, with a high of $899,000 and a median sales price of $415,000. They're also sitting on a market time average of 30 days, which is about double where it was last month, where it was only 17 days market time average. Now to finish up in the Round Lake area, Russ, you're going to be interested in this. This is your backyard. Round Lake area, only $2.6 million in sales the past week. Week-over-week increase of 15%, down from last month of 41%. Year-over-year climb of 14%, which seems to be trailing about the average. Yep. We're doing about 14% better than last year. Less than a month's supply of inventory at 0.8. Lowest priced home sold was $97,000. The high was $798,000. $329,000 is the median average. Slightly more than you paid for your first house, Russ. $13,000. For those who could hear him say that, before we fixed our sound problems. Average market time is 37.9 days, which is about the same as it was last month at 36.5 days. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Sly. That pretty much confirms everything we've already been talking about.
Yep.
No surprises.
No surprises at all. Homes are selling quick if they're priced right and they're in good shape. Otherwise, they sit for a little bit, but still not enough inventory.
It's not enough inventory.
Nowhere near enough to meet demand.
Yeah, and what's funny is we've been slowly building up inventory for the past month. And we've built up quite a bit of inventory, actually, in the past 3 weeks. But it's all going like this.
Yeah, it's not enough. Doesn't matter.
It's not enough. There's so... And I don't want to say there's so many buyers, because there's not so many buyers. There's just enough buyers that's more than the inventory, which is keeping
a lot of pent-up demand, right? People that were waiting for rates to come down, maybe people that were kind of on the fence. I have a lot of people that are coming back that maybe last year got discouraged because they put a bunch of offers in on properties that didn't get accepted, and so they're like, you know what, we're going to sit this out, coming back. And need inventory.
Yeah, and if you think about that, too, so you're going to have basically double demand this year. Like you said, the people who couldn't do it last year and forced to do it this year. And I've got buyers who are, coming to me. It's like, hey, we regret not doing it last year.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Even in the $200,000 range, we're seeing increases $15,000 to $20,000.
Right.
That's significant, 7-8% increases, and they regret not pulling the trigger last year.
Yeah, I have the same. I have a client that we pre-approved in 2021 when the rates were in the threes, and he's wanted to buy a $300,000 house. He said, I think the prices are going to come down. I'm going to rent for another year. And then he did it again in 2022, and then again in 2023, and now it's like the houses he was looking at are $400,000, and the rates are 7% instead of 3% at $300,000, and he's been paying almost $3,000 a month in rent during that time.
And what do you do at that point? Do you lower your expectations?
Yeah.
Do you increase what you're willing to pay?
You have to. Either that or you could just when is the right time to buy, right? It depends on your situation, but I don't know, like for that person, like they should have probably pulled the trigger in 2021 when they had a good opportunity at a good rate. Yeah, the prices were high, but guess what? They're higher now. The rates are higher now, and you've been renting for 4 years at $3,000 a month. Yeah, that's a lot of missed opportunity there. So don't be that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy or girl. Yeah. And there's such a you can't. There's nothing you can do to perfectly time the market.
No.
It's just like with a stock market.
Right.
You try to, I'm going to wait until that stock gets to the ultimate top. Well, there is no ultimate top. You never know when that's going to be. And I guarantee if you try pulling the trigger then, you're still going to miss. You get in when it makes sense. You get in when it works for you. You get in when you can afford it. And then you deal with, we got in 2005 in our home, at the peak, just before the peak. But because it was still competitive then, we were overpaying. And so we bought the house. And then the market crashed. Guess what? We survived. We lived. And we didn't plan on moving, so we didn't lose anything.
Right.
And now we've long recovered from what we lost after the market correction in 2008 and have surpassed that significantly. We're probably just under about double what it was worth when we bought it. So
awesome.
Yeah, as long as you can wait it out. If you're going to be a 2-year, 3-year thing and you can't be upside down, no.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. But if you're in there 5 to 10 years, what do you have to lose? Just make the commitment, do it. And then if the rates come down, you redo your rate.
Right.
If they don't come down, you deal with it because you can still afford it. You did it based on that. And then hopefully maybe one day it'll come down enough where you can refi.
Absolutely.
Okay, we are going to head to our first commercial break. So we will be right back. And just want to make sure everything's good technically. I don't want to make a mistake again. We will. Here we go.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County.
With Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
It's time for the weather.
This weather update is brought to you by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company. Today, brace yourself for showers and thunderstorms likely and mostly cloudy skies. Highs hover around the upper 40s before dipping a bit to the mid-40s with northeast winds whipping around at 15 miles per hour and gusts hitting up to 25. Rain chances are up at 70%. Tonight, it's a weather roller coaster. Showers and storms early, a mix of rain and snow after midnight with winds really cranking up, gusting to 50 miles per hour, and temps dropping to the upper 20s. A potential inch or two of snow might make its debut, and as we peek into tomorrow, we've got a hint of snow early, followed by a most...
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
It's time for Unlocking This Day in History, brought to you by Harter Schottland Law Firm in Round Lake Beach. Let's take a quick trip back in time to what happened. Today in history, March 19th, a date that's seen its fair share of historical moments. Let's rewind to 1895 when the Lumiere brothers, Auguste and Louis, showcased their first film on this very day. Can you imagine the awe of seeing moving pictures for the very first time? That's right. It all started rolling on March 19th. Fast forward a bit to 1979, when the United States House of Representatives began broadcasting its daily sessions on cable television channel C-SPAN. Lights, camera, democracy was not the official catchphrase, but it should have been. What a way to bring the legislative process right into the living rooms across America. Can you say political reality TV? And hold on to your seats, time travelers. In 2004, Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher Randy Johnson threw a perfect game against the Atlanta Braves. Now, I'm talking about pure perfection. 27 batters up, 27 batters down. Not a single batter made it to first base on pitcher Johnson's watch. That's our quick spin through the historical time machine for March 19th. Remember, every day is a chance to make history of your own. And with that encouraging thought, we now return you back to Unlocking Lake County with Dick, Christin, and Sly.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Here's the top stories in real estate today. First up, according to a recent report from Zillow, the national housing market is showing signs of stabilization after a tumultuous few years. The report highlights that home prices have increased in many parts of the country, although at a slower pace compared to previous years. This trend is attributed to a combination of low inventory levels and steady demand from buyers who are now returning to the market after being on the sidelines. In local news, Cook County has implemented new measures aimed at increasing affordable housing. According to the Chicago Tribune, these measures include providing financial incentives to developers who commit to building a...
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3, The Life.
Did you know that there's a bridge in Lake County infamous for its spooky charm and unusual history? It's called the Cuba Road Bridge, and it's situated over the Barrington area in Lake County, Illinois. What makes this bridge weird but true, you ask? It's been home to a collection of ghostly legends and eerie tales for decades. Locals claim that you might catch sight of ghostly apparitions under the bridge or in the surrounding woods, a mysterious spectral car that follows visitors. And hold on to your hats, folks. Phantom lights that vanish into thin air. While these stories can be traced back to the early 20th century, the mystery persists. But what makes this a truly strange spot is the rumored location of a vanished mansion near Cuba Road, known as White Cemetery. This cemetery dates back to the 1800s, adding to its mythical aura. Visitors talk about flickering light.
Welcome back to Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
Welcome back, Lake County. This is Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County, here with Sly Marinca.
Hello, hello.
And special guest, Mayor Russ Kraly from Round Lake.
Hello.
Something's pinning our sound. Our sound meters are kind of like pinning, so I don't know if that was coming out too hot over the air. Anyway, but welcome back on this dreary, wet, rainy, beautiful, not sunny day.
It was 80 last week. It was 78 degrees. My windows were open at my house. I cooked out in shorts and T-shirt. Like, what happened?
Hey, yesterday was 67.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it never really felt great.
No.
It was kind of a chilly 67.
we had a volleyball tournament in Milwaukee on Sunday, and it snowed 5 inches.
What?
It was 5 inches of snow when we came out of the Baird Center in downtown Milwaukee, dumping out. Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
We had 3 inches about here.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. So Saturday morning, I know I took Jonathan to hockey, and it was pretty nasty. Our volleyball tournament was in College of DuPage, so I don't think it was as bad. You were the opposite ends. You could have taken your snowmobile up to the
I could have, yeah. That would have been fun.
Sly, are you ready to thrill us with what's going on in the mortgage industry?
I am born ready, yes.
Awesome, man. Here you go.
Here is the Mortgage Minute with Sly Marinca and Cross Country Mortgage on Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
All right. So we are back with the Mortgage Minute. Currently, the national average for your 30-year fixed mortgage is sitting at 6.80%. That's down from 6.82% last week. So a very small decrease in the national average. Things are kind of on standstill a little bit because the Fed decision is today. Currently, the odds are 1% likely to see a rate cut.
So not zero.
Very unlikely that we'll see any kind of rate cut. The most recent Fed meeting, they're kind of looking for inflation to be down around that 2% range, which is what they've been saying all along. And it is trickling down, but ever so slowly. Down from 3% to 2.8% last month. So last week when we were here, we were talking about the odds of a Fed rate cut for the May 7th Fed meeting. Last week, the odds were 48% for a May 7th rate cut. This week, they're only 16%. So whatever has happened in the markets the last week, the odds have gone down now for a Fed rate cut in May.
That probably means the economy's looking better than they first thought a week ago.
That and inflation. Inflation just isn't going away until some of these cuts that are being made and the deficit spending starts to be really, really addressed, which we're going in that direction. That's going to take a little bit for all of that to kick in.
Yeah.
So, it's just we're sitting at a standstill. Rates should be going down because inflation is creeping down, but it's just not moving very quickly. Currently, the odds for a June 18th Fed meeting rate cut are sitting at 60%. So it is likely that the rate cuts are coming. It's just cans getting kicked down the road until some of this shakes out with the tariffs and with all of the changes that are kind of going on behind the scenes. That's kind of what we're waiting on. Earlier this week, the New York Fed released information out that has been put on social media and kind of being skewed a little bit, where, excuse me, 40% of refinance applications are currently being rejected, according to a survey by the Fed. And so the thought is, well, a lot of these people are going to have to sell. They're not going to be able to refinance if they have to. So more inventory is coming on the market. I think it's skewed. Let's face it. Right now, barely anybody is trying to refinance. Right. I mean, if you ask your neighbors and your friends, hey, are you trying to refinance right now? The answer is going to be no. Who would refinance right now unless you absolutely have to? Right? Let's face it. People still have those 2% and 3% mortgage rates that they got in 2020 and 2021. A lot of people are sitting on those. Those people don't want to give that up. So the only reason people are refinancing for the most part right now is to try to take cash out, and they're probably already missing payments. They're probably already behind on stuff. So it's a little bit skewed to say that, we're going to see a ton of inventory coming on the market because these people can't refinance. Yeah, the only people very few people are trying to refinance is the point right now. Sure. The numbers are minimal. I mean, I could tell you in the last year, I've probably done 10 refis. And it's been people that have to do it, that have to take money out, people that maybe bought homes for cash that now want to pull equity out, investors that bought homes for cash, fix them up, things like that. So very few people are trying to refinance. So yes, 4 out of 10, according to the Fed, are being rejected. But there's a good reason behind that.
Makes sense.
So one other quick thing, Christin, actually, hopefully she's still listening. She sent me a very interesting video this week of a potentially under the radar problem that's arising in the economy, and it's a TikTok video. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But I did a little bit of research, and there may be some backing to it. And the gist of the video is that, do you remember in 2008, do you remember CDO, what that was?
Yeah.
A CDO was a collateralized debt obligation. Yep. And basically it was a financial instrument that is traded, purchased by investors, pools of people's mortgages. Yeah. And in those pools of people's mortgages were good loans that were traditionally underwritten, as well as subprime loans. And when the mortgage meltdown started, those investments basically became worthless and caused ripple effects throughout the whole economy. The same thing is currently happening now with they're called CLOs. They're collateralized loan obligations.
See, they're not debt obligations. They're loan completely different, Sly. Completely different.
And they are tied to, so what it is private equity firms that purchase companies. So this has nothing to do with the real estate, but it could have ripple effects in the economy in general. So the gist is these private equity firms, they'll buy a business and then they'll take out a bunch of loans against it and then package load that debt up and sell it off to investors. Well, in the video, they were talking about some pretty major companies that we're well aware of that have recently filed bankruptcy, like Joann Fabrics, Party City, Big Lots, Forever 21, a lot of retail. And some of this debt is tied to those companies. So what happens when Joann Fabrics goes out of business and they have billions of dollars in debt outstanding? That debt goes away. Well, does it really go away? No, someone is paying that. And unfortunately, it's going to be passed on to investors. So hopefully our pension systems, insurance systems, some of the other government systems aren't going to be impacted by this. But it was pretty scary. It was kind of a doomsday video, and I think we're just kind of like on the start of this. But it was interesting to see that again, because I remember CDOs, like that was all everybody talked about on the news in 2008, 9, and 10, and I actually lived through that. I was a mortgage loan officer for a company, and the company I worked for at the time was one of the first ones to go under.
Really?
And we were directly tied to the Bear Stearns.
Was it Countrywide?
It was American Home Mortgage, which was Countrywide was, another one that went under. Yeah. But we were directly tied to that because our line of credit was with Bear Stearns, and they had frozen it, and we literally went bankrupt overnight. In fact, I was watching TV, and I saw on the ticker on the bottom of the TV that our company had filed for bankruptcy. When 2 days before that, our CEO said, "We're sitting pretty. We're not going anywhere. We're buying Countrywide. We're buying Washington Mutual," and then 2 days later, bankrupt. Because the money dried up. So interesting times.
Did you ever see The Big Short, the movie?
We are in that big in the movie. My company was referenced in that movie because of the whole tie to Bear Stearns. Not directly, but a large mortgage lender tied to Bear Stearns. That was us. So I lived through all of that, and boy, the gamble that that was the money that was made off of that. Was crazy to think that someone had the foresight. So I'm wondering if some of that's going on now with these private equity firms. They're basically pulling out huge loans on these companies, and when they go bankrupt.
It didn't just take foresight. I mean, it took foresight and nads of steel. You remember the way the movie laid that out about they were expecting these shorts to be quick.
Yeah.
Because they were saying they have to be quick. There's nothing real holding the values up.
Right.
And they were presenting the information to the SEC, and they were presenting the information to Moody's and saying, Moody's, how are you giving this AAA paper?
Right.
How are you giving these ratings out? And, there was quite a bit of implication that these rating agencies are a little bit of paper rating, so to speak.
And I'm still unaware of anybody ever going to jail for any of that. That's the crazy part about it. It's like people, so many different people did wrong there, right? And whether it was the rating agencies, whether it was the government regulators, whether the investment companies that are trading this junk, literally junk.
Yeah.
And no one ever fell for it. No one.
Anyway, let's make it clear though. It's not. Sly's not making the prediction that the sky is falling. And remember, this was a TikTok video, but
correct.
There's the reality that these types of things do exist.
Yeah. Google CLO, collateralized loan obligation, and you'll see that there's a lot of that going on, and obviously there's a lot of good going on, right? Because a lot of the companies are making money and the debt is being paid back. But just seeing some of these names, that it's like Party City. You fill up a balloon at Party City, they charge you $10. They're Halloween candy. It's like, how are they not making money? All this stuff is, imported from overseas super cheaply. And
well, I'll tell you why. Because we can buy our own crap overseas now.
Yeah.
You can buy a whole party pack of balloons and napkins and plates from Temu. It takes 6 months. You got to buy it 6 months in advance.
Right.
And then, boom, you've got it here. And it costs you 10 cents on the dollar. And that's kind of another reason I don't mind some of these protectionist policies, at least in the short term, to kind of stop this. Look how much some foreign countries, like China specifically, they're stealing the patents. They're stealing the copyrights of American-made, American-created goods. And they're packaging it and reselling it. I bought for my son the Titanic Lego, right?
Yeah.
It's a significantly expensive toy, okay?
Right.
You can buy the same exact thing. So it's about $700 in the U.S. You can buy the same exact thing, perfectly modeled. Everything is exactly the same except the box. Sometimes there's no box, and sometimes the box doesn't say Lego on it. You could buy the same thing for $125 from one of those like Alibaba or Chinese companies. So, Lego's really getting screwed on this because they don't care. They don't prosecute the patent violations. They don't allow for companies to protect their patents in these countries.
Right.
So I don't mind some of these protectionist policies.
And I agree totally. I was having a conversation actually just the other day with someone about, the tariffs and and I think a lot of people don't understand the intent of the tariff is to try to level the playing field.
Right.
We're not trying to rip anyone off. We're not trying to excuse me, charge more than what we should be. It's simply trying to level the playing field. If you go to Europe, in Europe, you can't buy a Cadillac. You can't buy a Corvette. You can't buy an Escalade. Well, you can, but they're going to charge you, through the roof for it. How come anybody here can buy a Mercedes? They could buy a, and it
We buy
puts
everything out of Korea. We
Right.
could buy, I don't know. We don't have many Chinese cars, do we?
No, I don't think we have many Chinese cars. I don't know how many Chinese cars they make actually, but the point is it's like that's not really fair that they don't allow us to sell our cars. I'm sure GM and Ford and they would love to sell cars in Europe.
Yeah.
But we can't, right? Because they put tariffs on them to protect their automakers.
Yeah.
Everyone else in the world does it, but yet when we do it, we're the bad guy. And again, it's just leveling the playing field. That's all it is, and it should be fair for everybody. But some people don't see it that way.
It's free trade for everyone else but us. We are kind of like the gifting pot to the world.
Right.
Is we provide all of the research and development for major pharmaceuticals, life-saving drugs.
Yeah.
We do all that, and our residents, our citizens, our consumers
Yep.
pay the premiums through our insurance providers or sometimes directly out of the pocket, so other countries can give it away to their citizens for free.
How is that fair?
Right. Yeah.
How is that fair to the American taxpayer, to the American worker? Not fair. I mean, it's simply not fair. So I'm all for leveling the playing field and making it so it is fair. I mean, we all should be as taxpayers.
And from what I understand, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't watch this stuff that close. Ever since the election, I'm just kind of I'm numbed out from the politics, except local politics, Russ. No offense. You're welcome here.
I agree with you 100%.
I'm so numbed out from it. But from what I understand, and you'll correct me because I know you watch this stuff like a hawk because you're a finance guy, is there's no tariffs that are being threatened or imposed that are higher than the reciprocal tariff imposed on us from that country. Is that accurate?
We will charge you what you charge us.
Okay.
Plain and simple.
Right. Just that's
How is that not fair? That's the part that I don't understand, where there's politics aside. I don't care about the politics aspect of it. We are $30+ trillion in debt. That's a big, I lose sleep over that at night, because if you start thinking about it, how are we ever going to, I'm a finance mind. My mind is all around numbers. All I do every day is pour over people's finances.
Yeah.
So of course, when you see that kind of debt, I'm all for charity, helping countries when they need it, helping people when they need it, 100%. But you're not going to be able to sustain that if you don't address the $35 trillion in debt at some point. And I think that's the part that, we just always kick the can down the road, and the good old U.S. of A. is always going to be there. The money's always going to come in, and at some point, when's enough? Let
me ask you a question. You might know, and Russ, if you have any knowledge of this, feel free to chime in. So, Americans, by and large, right now are paying an exorbitantly high interest rate on their credit card debt.
Correct.
Sometimes as high as 30%.
Yeah.
Right.
29%. Yep.
29%. Okay. When government borrows money, and I know the government doesn't technically borrow it, it just prints it and then says it owes it to somebody. It's kind of weird how that whole thing works.
Correct.
But anyway, so when they borrow money, and I know China is one of our big lenders, right?
Yeah.
What interest rate do they pay for that debt?
Whatever the going Fed funds rate, if it's overnight money, whatever they're selling so if they're selling the treasury bonds for 7%, they're paying 7% on that.
Okay, so 7%. So let's think about that. So and I know the entire national debt isn't subject to the same interest rate,
Correct,
right? It's
that
all
changes
based on
all the
what
time.
the treasury was at the time. So think about this for a second, listeners and viewers, if you can hear us, because 36 trillion right now?
Yep.
36 trillion. If it was 1% interest rate, that's $3.6 trillion in interest alone. That's if it was 1% interest rate, which it's not. Let's say, what would you think the average is, 4 to 5%?
Yeah, somewhere in there. So the U.S. government is projected to spend $1.2 trillion on interest alone. We only bring in...
For how long?
That's for the fiscal year 2024.
Only $1.2 trillion?
$1.2 trillion on
so
interest debt. Well, because there was times when the rates were near zero.
Oh,
so they're not
we
paying
got a lot
as
of
much.
0% debt on there.
Right.
Okay.
So but 1.25 trillion.
So it's a bargain.
We only bring in what, 4 trillion? Yeah, I mean, as a percentage, that's a lot before you spend a penny
25% is going out the
before
door.
you spend a penny on the military, before you spend a penny on everything else they do with Social Security coming in and Medicare and Medicaid and all the other government programs. That's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, and I'm
Scary.
convinced people just don't understand how much $1 trillion is.
Oh yeah,
it's a thousand, thousands, thousands.
Right.
Thousand. No, it's 1,000, thousands.
Here, so 1 trillion seconds is 31,688 years.
So you say that again?
A trillion second is over 31,000 years. A billion seconds is 31 years.
A billion seconds is
1 billion seconds
years.
is 31.7097 years.
Wow.
A trillion is 31,000 years. So it's astronomical. These numbers are. I remember when $1 billion was a lot of money. Now we throw around trillion like it's, a walk in the park. It's like, no, we gotta nip this in the bud if we want the future of our country if we want it for our grandkids to be here, right?
Yeah.
And if we want the success of the country to, have something to pass on to generations to come, it's unsustainable. So I'm happy that.
And we're talking about the federal government.
Right.
But what's going on in our state then with all the billions?
Right.
There's, for us that live here, especially in Illinois, we're one of the high states.
Highest second highest tax state in the country, yeah.
I think this year we passed it. I think we're first now.
Oh, above New Jersey?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think
this
year we passed it.
I
Yeah,
know we
total,
were close.
total
I know
tax.
we were going back and forth with them, back and forth. So
yeah,
we're
the total
number one.
tax, everything.
Yeah.
Telecommunications, sales tax,
Right.
blah, blah, blah.
And to still have the debt that we have as a state?
Yeah, so how do you now you got to dig yourself out of the state debt, and then you got to dig yourself out of the federal debt. It's uncanny.
Yeah. There was something recently that went again on TikTok, I know, and it was slightly wrong, but it wasn't completely wrong. And I think they said Elon Musk could make $500,000 a day since Jesus was born, and he that much money. And it's, no, that's not true. But I did the math. It's actually close.
Right.
$300,000 a day.
Right.
Since Jesus was born.
Yeah.
And would be, was it a day or a year? No, it was a day. Yeah, $300,000 a day. I think since. Do the math for me, would you? So it's 365 times roughly 2,000. What's the math coming out to?
I didn't do it that way, but here. So here I'll just do that. I'll just do it with my phone. How about that?
Yeah, do
I'm
it with
doing
your
it on
phone.
the
That's going
computer.
to be easier. So how much money has Elon Musk is worth about $250 billion. I don't know. Maybe that's changed in recent times since those idiots keep blowing up Teslas. But that's another thing. I can do a whole
what
show
did they
on
say
that.
last week? He lost $1 billion in one day.
Oh, sure.
He's lost. Yeah. So that would be $219 billion if he made $300,000 a day for 200 years.
So
2,000 years.
So $300,000 a day since Jesus was born is $219 billion, which is about what Elon Musk is worth.
Yeah. Right.
$300,000 a day.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that movie? This is probably before your time, Sly. But Russ, you might have seen. Did you ever see that movie, Brewster's Millions, with Richard Pryor?
Yes.
Oh, one of my favorites. You never saw it?
No.
Oh, it's a great. The storyline. Let me switch the cameras here. The storyline is. Richard Pryor and John Candy are just a couple of bum baseball players, AAA, minor league baseball players, and have nothing. They're broke. And Richard Pryor's uncle's is loaded, and he dies, and he's got no heir. So he's decided to bequeath the money to Richard Pryor, and he's going to give him $30 million. And the trick is, he's got to spend all of it in 30 days. He can't own a single asset at the end of 30 days. And if he does that, he gets $300 million.
Wow.
And the whole movie, which I think was probably, 1985? Oh, yeah, 1985, was how hard it is to actually spend $30 million without having any assets.
Yeah.
And I just look at look at today.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do.
Yeah. No kidding.
All you got to do is buy 50 Teslas and then put them in a parking lot and let the protesters destroy them all.
That's it.
Now I got no assets.
There you go.
or give them away.
Yeah.
But that was one of the rules. He couldn't give the money away.
Yeah.
He couldn't gift it. He couldn't give the money away. And that's why his friends were getting mad at him, because he's spending all this money and he won't even give him a dime. And they're like, whoa, this guy's a jerk.
Okay.
He's got $30 million. He won't give us a penny. It's a really funny movie, though.
I'll have to check that out.
I think one of his best.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're ready for our second break. So we will be after we come back, we're going to have a sit down and talk with Russ Kraly, who is the current mayor of Round Lake. We're going to hear about his vision, what he wants to talk about, and potentially answer some questions. So thanks for joining us. We'll be right back.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
It's time for the weather.
This weather update is brought to you by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company. We're staring down a gray afternoon today with showers and thunderstorms in the mix. Hold on to those hats as northeast winds clock in at about 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 25. Heading into tonight, keep your rain boots handy as we transition from rain to a wintry mix, with snowflakes joining the party. Those north winds will kick it up a notch, reaching up to 30 miles per hour and making quite the blustery scene. Looking ahead to Thursday, the sun will peek through after a snowy start, with northwest winds adding a brisk touch to the day.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Hello, it's time for Unlocking This Day in History. Brought to you by Harter Schottland Law Firm in Round Lake Beach. Let's take a quick trip back in time to what happened today in history. On March 19, 1910, one of the most magnificent structures opened its doors for the first time, the Elysee Palace's newly launched Grand Theater. Trust me, not a bad seat in the house, but I'd still bring a nice pair of opera glasses. And then, in 1973, the world witnessed the grand entrance of Pink Floyd's psychedelic masterpiece, The Dark Side of the Moon, on the U.S. Billboard charts. Just 8 kilos of chocolate shy of hitting #1, but an undefeated legend in heartbeats and cash registers. It's fair to say this band really made their mark on the 70s and our eardrums. Fast forward to 2012, when postal history unfolded as the United States Postal Service unveiled the Forever Stamp, featuring the American cherry blossoms. They say nothing is forever, but these stamps are pretty close. On this date in 2014, President Obama gave us tech-muted citizens something to rally behind, the dropping of the last meaningless ban on unlocking cell phones. Thank you, Obama. Now, unlocking freedom one beep at a time. And finally, in 2020, we might have been on lockdown from the pandemic, but a tidbit from space lifted our spirits. The Mars rover Perseverance was named by an enterprising middle school student finally getting credit for their good ideas. And there you have it, folks. Another fun ride through time stretching from grandeur theaters, unforgettable albums, to post stamps, cell phone freedom, and outer space wonders. We now return you back to Unlocking Lake County with Dick, Christin, and Sly.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Here's the top stories in real estate today. First, in the bustling real estate market of Cook County, existing single-family home prices have shown a steady increase. According to a report from the Regional Office of Realtors, home prices have risen by about 5% over the past year. This rise is attributed to strong demand coupled with a limited supply of homes on the market. Despite economic uncertainties, potential homebuyers in Cook County are still keen to invest, driven largely by historically low interest rates and the ongoing trend of working from home. Meanwhile, in Lake County, a new lakefront development is creating a buzz. Per a story in the Lake County Gazette, the proposed development features a mix of retail and residential units aimed at revitalizing the waterfront area. The plans include sustainable building practices and emphasize community spaces such as parks and walking paths.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
Have you ever heard about the legendary Beach Park Orb phenomenon in Lake County, Illinois? This is one of those stories that you'll find hard to believe, yet it's weird but true. It all began back in the late 1960s, when residents of the Beach Park area started reporting sightings of mysterious glowing orbs floating above their homes. and sometimes even following them down quiet roads. These orbs were described as glowing spheres of light, sometimes the size of a basketball, that appeared seemingly out of nowhere. They could hover just above the ground, dart around at incredible speeds, or sometimes just hang silently in the sky. Witnesses have described these orbs as having a mesmerizing brilliance that emitted a soft humming sound as they moved. Some locals even claimed that when they reached out towards them, the orbs would zip away, as if dodging human touch. Intriguingly, the sightings were not limited to just a few people. Over the years, dozens have come forward recounting their bizarre encounters. One of the most fascinating theories is that these orbs are some form of atmospheric plasma or natural electrical phenomenon, but no one can say for sure. Other folks chalk it up to extraterrestrial visitors, drawn to the peaceful outskirts of Lake County. Whatever these orbs are, they're certainly keeping the residents of Beach Park on their toes. Whether it's plasma, ETs, or good old-fashioned ghost lights, the Beach Park orbs leave us with one undeniable fact. They're a part of Lake County's lore that's weird, but oh so true. And now, a quick shout out to our sponsor, brought to you by the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage. Sly and his team can be reached at 847-722-1775. Keep an eye on the skies, listeners. You never know what you might spot right here in our own backyard.
Welcome back to Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
And welcome back, Lake County. This is Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County, here with Sly Marinca.
Hello, hello.
And Russ Kraly, our special guest from Round Lake.
Hello.
Okay, for those who are listening to the break and hear the weird but true stories, I got to say something. I have no idea if any of that garbage is true or not. Every week it seems to get more fantastic or not. So I don't know if we should be looking at maybe remove the weird but true. Maybe just make it weird.
Yeah.
Weird and maybe true.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
I'm not sure there's any actual reports of orbs flying around Beach Park, Illinois. So
Never heard of that one.
I never heard. Well, it's not as bad as the Veluvian. So Russ, a couple of weeks ago, I just started this feature where it's like weird but true in Lake County, and sometimes it comes up with some pretty fantastic stories. And one of them was the Veluvian monster of the Volo Bog.
Yeah.
And what happens is, so we use kind of like AI to do some research, and it comes up with these stories. But I found that it seems to be making them up completely. So not doing any research, just making up stories altogether.
But it sounds so good when you're like, whoa, is that really a thing? I wonder if people are Googling like Veluvian monster in the Volo blog. Or
Sounds like the old movie, The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
The creature from the Volo Bog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, welcome back, listeners and watchers. I think our sound is working. In our studio today, we've got a special guest. First time here is Russ Kraly. He's the current mayor of Round Lake. He's running for re-election. And that election is what, April 1st?
April 1st, so 2 weeks from yesterday.
2 weeks from yesterday, and early voting already started on Monday, right?
Monday.
So, Russ, welcome. And going to give you the opportunity, same way I gave everyone the opportunity on this feature we've been doing for the past several weeks, is tell us about yourself. What do you want the listeners to know?
Well, let's see. I've been here. I've been living in this area for 57 years. Been married to my wife for that length of time. I've owned 2 houses in the area. We first moved in Round Lake Beach and was in Round Lake Beach for almost 30 years, and actually about 25. But we bought a house there. I was on the village board here. I worked for the village around Lake, and then we moved over into Round Lake proper itself, where I live now. And didn't think I was going to be back in politics again. The mayor at that time knew who I was and lives on my street, so he had.
Was that Dan?
No, that was I'm trying to think about Mr. Gentis. Bill Gentis was mayor.
Yeah.
So he was nice enough. He asked me if I'd serve on the police pension board, so I served on that for I think it was about 7 years. And then at the same time, I was the village administrator for the village of Riverwoods. I was there for 18 years. My title was Director of Community Services. And it was interesting. I got hired down there after I left Round Lake Beach. And I was there as the building and zoning administrator, and then the current mayor had passed away after I was there a couple of years, so then the board elevated me to helping run the place because they didn't have anybody there of any experience. It was very small at that time. We had 6 people in the village hall there. So it was good. So we, at that time, contracted out for police services, and we contracted for all public works services. So over the years I was there, we started a police department. We still, at this time, contract for most of the public works services with Lake County because we have that. We either have private roads in Riverwoods or Lake County and roads that are taken care of by them, so we have a special contract with them. But other than that, I was there, retired in 2011, minding my own business. My wife and I were traveling. Dan McGillis got elected and come knocking on my door, and a couple of the people that were on his board at the time I had served with on the police pension board, so they asked me to take over as village administrator because Dan didn't know exactly what was going on. So I was supposed to be there for 3 or 4 months, and I ended up spending about 14 months there. And I asked him, I said, I want to retire. So we found a great guy, Steve Shields, who was our finance director at the time. He turned out to be a great administrator. And I went home, was minding my own business, and then one of the trustees on the board resigned, and Dad come back and said, I want to make you a trustee. And I went, no, I don't really want to be one. But in the end, he got appointed me, and so that started my politics in Round Lake. So I ended up getting appointed, got reelected, and it's been great. The people have been super here. I've always loved it. I've coached Spartan football. I was coached at the high school for a couple of years, coached Spartan football, Avon baseball, Avon softball, worked with a lot of the kids. All the negative comments. When I first moved here in 1968, I worked at a company called in Grays Lake. I can see who they are now because they're not there anymore. But anyways, it took you a long time to get a house back then. You had to document every penny that you saved, where you got it from. You couldn't borrow it. And so you fill all the paperwork out, do it. And it took us, I think, 2 to 3 months before you get an answer that you're going to get a mortgage. And like I said, it was $15,500. And I remember the day we got the phone call. We got it. And I was so happy. And I went into the cafeteria when I was eating. I said, got a mortgage. We're going to get a house, blah, blah, blah. They said, where? And I told them. And they said, that's the armpit of Lake County. It's exactly what they said. I went, what are you saying that for? They said, well, the houses were the cheapest thing out here, or cheaper in the area. And we had a nice house, 3-bedroom ranch. It was great. I mean, for us, a starter home, we had one child coming, and that was it. So I said, okay. And you know what? I haven't looked back.
Yeah.
It's been great. My wife came here from Chicago when she was 5. She went to school here, graduated from here. All my kids have graduated from here. I got grandkids in the system now. The school had its problems years and years ago when they are on the state finance watch, but they've got some great administrators, the last couple, and they've made changes, they've made additions. I mean, that high school today, I wasn't a great student. I mean, I was lucky that they had sports that I could play in, because that's why I went to school. But I said today, the learning labs that they have here, there's TVs in every room. You don't just sit and listen to the teacher. They work in groups of people. They have all the computers, all the equipment. It is an environment that I think really fosters education and fosters these kids learning. And I think they've done a great job at the school system.
There was a time, so in real estate, where being in the Round Lake School District was a huge deterrent to getting a house sold. And it could represent tens of thousands of dollars difference between the surrounding school districts. But I would say solidly for the past 10 years, that's completely turned around. There's very little difference as a result. And in some cases, it's an advantage. I know they've got a fantastic program for special education. Their cross-categorical program is good. Also, the number of scholarships that go into looking for recipients from that school is huge. And once they started ranking nationally, they went from the bottom of the bottom to a great amenity, and has almost zero negative effect on real estate or its value. So, kudos to the Round Lake and the school and what they've done.
I agree. I mean, if people have never taken the time to go around the school and see, they have open houses during the summertime and stuff, that's one thing they should do, just to see where your kids are going to, see what amenities are available. And then they got a grant a few years back. They redid the football stadium, they put in tennis courts, they're redoing baseball stadiums. I mean, they've just gone through the whole school top to bottom, and it's changed the whole outlook. And he said that's right. It just makes us a more viable community. We got a great park district. We got a great library district. We have all these things. You got a great fire department. Our fire department is super. I can't think of anything that, peripherally that isn't behind anybody else. I think we're just equal, or if not in front of everybody.
Yeah,
and it makes our job as a village. I mean, we get along. The village gets along with all the other entities. We work with them. All the mayors around here in the years past, when I was on the boards, everybody kind of ran their own kingdom and didn't want to go ahead and communicate with each other. Now we all get together. In fact, I'm missing a luncheon today because once a month, all the mayors from the area, and I mean, not just the Round Lake area, we got, Lake Bluff, Lake Villa, we got Lindenhurst, we got Fox Lake. There's 12 or 14 of us. They get together once a month, and we talk about what's going on, what we're doing, what's happening, and keep in touch. And then along with that, we have the JAWA. We have our own Joint Action Water Agency. We get everybody gets Lake Michigan water that's in this group. And I've been on that board now since Dan was the mayor. Dan didn't want to do it, so he appointed me as an alternate. So I've been lucky. I've been on that board for probably 10 years or longer, and I'm vice chairman now. But I said, that group of mayors, you think of the first time I went there, you're going to have a lot of egos in a room, and everybody's going to want to be fighting for their own cities and doing stuff. And it's probably just the opposite, that everybody gets in there and everybody's working for the same thing, the good quality of water, supplying stuff to every village at a reasonable price, a reasonable cost. We finished nationally last year. I think we were number 2 in the nation for water quality. I'm not sure how they do that stuff, but when you hear the stat like that, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
And we've got a great group of people that run that agency. And so, we got, there was a thing that went around last year on the internet that said water quality in Round Lake was the worst in the whole area, blah, blah, blah. And we're going, they're talking about well water and stuff. And we're going, no, nobody drinks well water here.
Yeah.
Everything comes from Lake Michigan. We got great water quality.
Great foresight when they first brought JAWA out to the area. Yep. Great foresight for them. Especially, how long has Round Lake been on the JAWA?
Well, let's see. I was on the board. Carl Shrimp was one of the instigators. He's got a plaque up there. So I'm going to say like 30 years, maybe longer.
You said 30?
30.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's when Beach got us. So you probably got it around the same time.
Yeah.
And it was, and you look at some of the surrounding communities like Lindenhurst, Lake Villa, they just added it. Yeah. And as a result, because 30 years later, huge cost to lay all the pipe, the bonds they had to bring out.
The newest one is Lake Zurich. They're the newest ones going on. The money is astounding, what it's going to cost them to do that. And I can remember when we first did it in the beach, and Carl wanted to do this, and everybody went, well, we don't want to really spend the money, but we did. And at the same time, the EPA was after us. Round Lake had its own sanitary district, and they didn't want anybody doing these little sanitary districts. So Fox Lake got to be the new regional sanitary district. So I was on that committee when we formed that. And I said, one of the best things we did, because every little town had to upgrade and do all the stuff. You couldn't afford it. Now you got everybody in the one sanitary district, all the villages. Yeah. Now you're spreading out that cost amongst everybody, because there's always demands. There's always unfunded demands that you have to go ahead and put in. And nobody ever thinks about that. The latest one from the state was a few years back was lead pipe replacement.
Oh, wow.
Have you heard about that? And now you have to have all the lead pipe services to all the homes done, and I think it's in another 5 years. And
wow.
Oh, wow.
We've been
That's
working on
expedited.
that for a long time. We're down, our village is down to, we're very few left. So our public works director, Adam, has done a great job about that.
And that's a federal mandate, not a state mandate?
No, that's a state mandate.
It's a state mandate. Okay.
So, but I mean, there's still a lot of them. I mean, so there's things that come along that you try to plan your budget and get things done, and then there's always hooks thrown at you that you don't have any idea what's coming. Water tower painting. We're going to paint a water tower this year. Actually, the bids came in a lot less than our first one, which was done last year, which we tried to get done for 3 years. But because of COVID, you couldn't get materials, you couldn't find labor, nobody wanted to do it. And the water tower cost us about almost between $250,000 and $300,000 more to paint.
To paint it?
To paint it. It was a lot of money.
I'll do it for $230,000.
Dick and I'll do it for $225,000.
And then we put, I think it was we put $900,000 in the budget because the last one was like 700 and some thousand, almost 800, to paint it. And now the bids came in, and I think it was about $200,000 under this year for whatever reason. It dropped, and I went, holy moly! We thought, in fact, we were talking about. I was talking with the public works director and at our staff meeting. And we figured they were going to come in well over $1 million. We thought they would come in a lot higher than that, and we actually ended up getting a bid cheaper. So,
you were talking about Russ. You were talking about grants before. Talk to me about what's going on with downtown Round Lake right now.
Well, that's the good thing is. When I became administrator, going through files and stuff, they were talking about rearranging and increasing Cedar Lake Road, coming out of center of town and taking it around there. The county it's their road. And they were proposed this in the late 60s. And nobody wanted it. The village board didn't want it stuff. And they kept bringing it up every maybe 5 years, say, or so, and we had new paperwork in the files. And it just seemed to sit on the back burner. Well, when I got in office and Dad got in office and we started looking at this and figured, okay, so we went and talked with the county people and they explained what they wanted to do, how they were going to do this. They're going to come off of 120 where now it curves to go downtown in front of the fire. It's just going to go straight, and it's going to come out behind the village hall there on Hart Road. That'll be the exit point. And for us, it's great because you're going to go to a four-lane road, but the biggest thing is it's going to open up so much more commercial area for us to increase our downtown. Our downtown has been the same forever. So now we're going to have some ability to go ahead and add some new businesses, have some new real estate to bring in new businesses. The whole board is finished. We just did this year with Tesco and Associates. We've done a complete new plan for downtown Round Lake. We're going to change the look of the downtown Round Lake, add some new signage, some new sidewalks, some different types of parking. That's just going to, hopefully we're going to upgrade it. It's going to take a few years. It's got a big price tag on it. It's going to be well over a couple $1 million to do this, so it's not going to get done overnight. But hopefully we're going to attract some new businesses and get some more tax dollars in and be able to go ahead and upgrade downtown Round Lake, which hopefully will bring in new businesses and attract new people so they spend their money here. We get some tax dollars.
Perfect.
So that's the goal.
I got to imagine without having, so right now when I drive through Round Lake downtown, I mean, it's cute, it's a little small, little stretch, but I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop because there's not a lot of parking there. I'm afraid, and sometimes people just trying to back out of the parking spaces is a nightmare. So I'm just like, I'm going straight through. Yeah. So if it's not a main thoroughfare, I got to imagine that's going to help.
It's going to help a lot. We're going to change that down. We're not going to have the same diagonal parking on both sides. One guy's going to have diagonal. The other side, they're talking about either curb, widen the sidewalks. Lamali's the restaurant was the first one that when we were, Dad and I, she would come to us and talk with us about different things. And then she asked one day, she says, can we go ahead and put some tables and chairs out there and have people sit outside? Well, up until Dad was in office, that was kind of frowned upon. And we said, well, why not? Her father made I don't know if you've seen all the planters that are down. Her father made the planters so they could go ahead and separate it from the walking. She put some tables and chairs out there. And it really added some family atmosphere to it, I guess you could say. And on a Friday night or a Saturday night, on beautiful nights, you see people out there, they're eating, they're talking, they're doing things. And, you didn't see that before. The downtown was basically deserted. So, I mean, and at one point we did have a lot of bars. We did a lot of stuff. Some of those have gone away. We want to attract more great, food-type businesses. We got a nice bakery down there, Crush Burgers on the corner. That's been done. We've got, the newer businessmen that have been there have spent some money and spent some time upgrading their businesses. We have a facade program that they can come in and we'll give them half their money back, up to, I think it's $25,000, to go ahead and paint, increase, new windows, new whatever they want to do, so we can help them do that. So it's a great program. They're trying to encourage the business community to go ahead and do some upgrading. So hopefully that'll grow. We haven't, I think, I want to say maybe like 5 people have taken advantage of this so far. So it hasn't been a lot, but hopefully it'll increase in time.
Yeah.
So that's
what do you think the holdback is? Why are people not taking advantage of it?
I don't know. I think well, having the money that they need to start it.
Okay. So it's a cost share.
It's a cost share, and then once they get it all done and it's approved, and then they can take all the paperwork, put it in, and then we'll reimburse them. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's the upfront funding. I don't know. So maybe that's something we got to look at. If I get back in there again, maybe we sit down and look at it and see if we can somehow encourage or help with some refunding or something different.
What would you say the biggest needs of the Round Lake community are right now?
Well, I think getting tax dollars in. I mean, getting business, getting tax dollars so we can do stuff. Our police department is super. We've got a new chief, a new deputy chief. We've hired great officers. They have a great training program. We've been very lucky with that. Our public works department is good. We've been able to keep up with the demands as much as we can within our funding that's available on the streets. We do X amount of paving a year. We're going to have about $1.5 million this year to do some paving and street repairs. And Adam and the crew in the Public Works Department does a great job doing that, and keeping the sewers and sewer lines and the water lines moving. I think all the basics are there, and my number one goal is to make sure that the people are safe. You turn on your water, flush your toilets, you got that. In the wintertime, you get to plow the streets. And, after that is, we started we got a car show now. We have National Night Out. Everybody has a National Night Out. I think that's in August.
Yeah.
And ours started out years ago, and I think we had 300 hot dogs. We give away free hot dogs and drinks and everything. And we have trucks, and the Public Works have trucks. The police departments have stuff out there, the fire department, and games, face painting, all this stuff. And last year we gave I think it was just over 1,000 hot dogs away.
Yeah.
I mean, it has increased every year. The people come out, they support it. I think it's one of those great things. We also did 2 concerts in the park in conjunction with Round Lake Park District. So we had 2 concerts. So we're hopefully this year, I think we're looking at 4 maybe, being able to do that. We have a car show downtown. We've had 3 of them already, so we're looking for the 4th one. In the winter, in the fall, we do the cookie crawl, along with kids seeing Santa Claus. Cookie crawl is all the businesses have cookies, and the people go around with a bag and a thing. They get it stamped, and they get a cookie, but then there's prizes at the end. So it encourages people to go to the businesses and partake of that, but they get involved in it. So I mean, we've enlarged that. Our trustees and stuff have encouraged and supported these programs, and I think it's something that we can offer the people. At least the people don't have to sit at home, and you get the kids, you get the family involved, and they all have a great time. And you come up there at Christmas time, and we have a tent set up. The kids they can make ornaments, they have things, they got popcorn, they got cookies, they got hot chocolate. They get to see Santa Claus, and then they got to do the cookie crawl. So I mean, it's neat. It's a whole family night. So my co-host Christin Kaufman, she's usually here every week, and she loves this kind of local government stuff. So she always asks some of the best questions to the candidates coming in. One of the things that she's the most interested in is finding out, like, what are the different opportunities for if someone wanted to get involved in the village, on a commission, on a board, on a committee, anything. What are the opportunities in Round Lake where the public can volunteer to help? Anytime. We have the planning commission. We've got the police pension board. When we were doing the downtown realignment, we had a citizens board, and we had businessmen people on that board. Anytime people want to get involved, we advertise this in our village newsletter all the time. They just got to go ahead and send me, or it could send my village administrator, Brandy, and an email, or give me a call, leave a voicemail that they'd like to help out, serve, and we'll let them know what spots we have open and how they can do it. I mean, to me, that's the best way to get started. I got started. I was in Round Lake Beach here. My first job, I was on the planning commission. I got to be president of that. I was on the police pension board, and from that, I got to be a trustee. So, I mean, I think the mayors and the people and the trustees get to see how you react, and you work with everybody else, and, you know, you get along. Everybody plays well in a sandbox. Then those are the type of people you want to work with. And it's a good training ground.
Yeah, I do find it fascinating. I didn't know this. I didn't know you were a village administrator in your past life. That's a good amount of knowledge, because the nice thing is you understand the politics, but policy is number one.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky. I've sat on both sides of it. It was, you know, I started off working in Round Lake Beach. I said I was a trustee, and unfortunately, I was out of work. Lost my job, and I didn't know what to do. And the mayor, I had a side business going. I would build decks and garages and stuff like that. And the mayor said, "How'd you like to help run the building department?" The building department person was diagnosed with cancer, and he said, "We need some help there." So he offered me a job, and I went, "Well, all right, I'll try something." Never thought of working for the government. So that's really where I got my start from. I started working with the building department, and then I looked into it. I really liked it. So he encouraged me to go to school. I went to the University of Wisconsin, took all kinds of different courses, and ended up going there for, I think it was 3 years at different times. I got a license and to do the building inspections and all that stuff. And, you know, from there, it just changed my whole life. I mean, I changed my careers. Up until that time, I was actually a draftsman, an engineer, and did a lot of stuff. I always did that. That was fun.
Now, when you were UW, you didn't do anything stupid like become a Packers fan or anything, did you?
Never.
Okay. We had a candidate in here. We almost had to kick him out.
Oh, well, you're probably going to like me either. I don't know. I was born and raised in Ohio. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye. Through and through. My family's gone there. I mean, we've had a lot of them. No, Packers, nah, I can't ever do that.
Okay, good. So what's your favorite sports team today professionally?
Well, the Cubs and the Bears are right there, but the Browns, I'm still a Browns and Indians
fan. Okay, I respect that.
Yeah.
I'm a hardcore Yankee fan still. I'm born and raised in New York, so I'll never lose the Yankee.
Yeah.
Never.
It's in your blood.
It is. Yeah. It's 100%. It's irrational. Well, I guess when you're a Yankee fan, it's not irrational to like them, because how can you not like the best team ever in the history of baseball? I
was going to say, you won more championships than the
27 rings.
Yeah, well, my Cleveland Indians, I think, have 2. And I said, the worst thing, my father died just before he was 90. And, he died in 2012. And here we go, the Cubs in 2016 go to the World Series. And who are they playing against? The Cleveland Indians. So, believe it or not, I would be broke today if I had to go ahead, and because I had all kinds of bets at my cousins back home. We were going back and forth to each other. We went to that Game 7, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this is going to be tough. And we come back and win that game at the bottom of it. And I went, all right.
Yeah.
But I hated to see the Indians lose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My first Yankee game I went to, my dad brought me to a game. It was against the Indians. And it was right after you guys took Phil Niekro from us. And I didn't know it had happened. The trade had happened. And they announced Phil Niekro. And I was just, cheering. And it says, no, that's the Indians. I'm like, I felt like an idiot there. You don't pay attention. Anyway, we're going to take one more break, and we'll be right back. We're going to have a few more questions for Mayor Kraly, and we'll have more information right after these words. Or not. There we go.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
With Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
It's time for the weather.
This weather update is brought to you by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company. This afternoon, grab your umbrella as showers and thunderstorms are likely, with temperatures slipping to the low 40s. A breezy northeast wind adds a little extra whoosh, with gusts up to 25 miles per hour. Tonight, get ready for a mix of rain, snow, and some impressive winds up to 45 miles per hour, bringing a chill down to 29. Expect a new friend or two in the form of snowflakes, with 1 to 2 inches accumulating. As for tomorrow, you'll wake up to the last whispers of snow, making way for sunshine and a high in the 40s. Don't get blown away by those gusty winds.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
It's time for Unlocking This Day in History. Brought to you by Harter Schottland Law Firm in Round Lake Beach. Let's take a quick trip back in time to what happened today in history. Zap! We're rewinding the clock back to March 19th, 1953. It was on this day that the Academy Awards, yes folks, the Hollywood Oscars themselves, were broadcast on television for the very first time. Movie fans across the nation tuned in, likely on their black and white sets, to catch a glimpse of stars like Gary Cooper and Audrey Hepburn, rekindling their silver screen magic right in their living rooms. Fast forward just a bit to March 19th, 1982. An epic clash was happening, but not on the battlefield. It was in the galaxy far, far away. Remember when the iconic space shuttle Columbia, piloted by none other than Jack Luzma and Charles Fullerton, soared into space on its third mission? Columbia, we have liftoff. And now, zooming ahead one more time to March 19th, 2016, when history was made across the pond. Cuba and the United States took a major step toward normalizing relations as President Barack Obama became the first sitting United States president to visit Cuba in 88 years. A diplomatic victory that bridged the sands of time and transcended history. What a trip. From Hollywood glitz to cosmic quests and groundbreaking diplomacy. This day has seen it all throughout the years, reminding us that history never rests, nor should we. We now return you back to Unlocking Lake County with Dick, Christin, and Sly.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Here's the top stories in real estate today. According to a recent report from Realtor.com, home prices in the United States remain at historically high levels. Although there are signs of cooling in certain markets, the average price of homes continues to rise year over year.
Gusts up to 25 miles per hour. Tonight, get ready for a mix of rain, snow, and some impressive winds up to 45 miles per hour, bringing a chill down to 29. Expect a new friend or two in the form of snowflakes, with 1 to 2 inches accumulating. As for tomorrow, you'll wake up to the last whispers of snow, making way for sunshine and a high in the 40s. Don't get blown away by those gusty winds.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3, The Life.
Have you ever heard about the legendary Beach Park orb phenomenon in Lake County, Illinois? This is one of those stories that you'll find hard to believe, yet it's weird but true. It all began back in the late 1960s, when residents of the Beach Park area started reporting sightings of mysterious glowing orbs floating above their homes, and sometimes even following them down quiet roads. These orbs were described as glowing spheres of light, sometimes the size of a basketball, that appeared seemingly out of nowhere. They could hover just above the ground, dart around at incredible speeds, or sometimes just hang silently in the sky. Witnesses have described these orbs as having a mesmerizing brilliance that emitted a soft humming sound as they moved. Some locals even claimed that when they reached out towards them, the orbs would zip away, as if dodging human touch. Intriguingly, the sightings were not limited to just a few people. Over the years, dozens have come forward recounting their bizarre encounters. One of the most fascinating theories is that these orbs are some form of atmospheric plasma or a natural electrical phenomenon, but no one can say for sure. Other folks chalk it up to extraterrestrial visitors, drawn to the peaceful outskirts of Lake County. Whatever these orbs are, they're certainly keeping the residents of Beach Park on their toes. Whether it's plasma, ETs, or good old-fashioned ghost lights, the Beach Park orbs leave us with one undeniable fact. They're a part of Lake County's lore that's weird, but oh so true. And now, a quick shout out to our sponsor, brought to you by the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage. Sly and his team can be reached at 722-1775. Keep an eye on the skies, listeners. You never know what you might spot right here in our own backyard.
Welcome back to Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
We are back. Welcome back, Lake County. Here with Sly Marinca.
Hello, hello.
And our special guest, Mayor Russ Kraly from Round Lake.
Yep, we're here.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. I know you're busy. I know it's kind of a full-time job running the town there. And I want to get into some questions that some people have asked me and I want to ask you about. I know one of the things that made a lot of noise over the past couple of years was the ski hill. What can you tell me about it?
Well, yep, it has made a lot of noise, and it's still making a lot of noise. The opposition is using it. The ski hill I inherited, the people that were going to planning this came to Mayor McGillis, one of our meetings at Mayor McGillis, and made a small presentation of what they'd like to do. And it sounded interesting. So the board told them to go back, put together a full presentation with all the data, documents, and everything. And since they were going to be building on land that was outside the village, they had to fill out some paperwork and for annexation to the village, and you pay a fee. So, unfortunately, COVID hit right after that. So instead of coming back right away, so we didn't hold meetings for 3 years in person. So It just didn't happen. So I get elected. So the first thing I did was I said, okay, no more computers, no more doing stuff electronically. We're having meetings in person. Sure. So then they came back at that time. So they came back under my administration, which was fine. That's all right. So they filled out the paperwork, presented it to the Planning Commission. And what happens then is once you do that, then the Planning Commission takes all that data, you make a presentation to them, they listen, then at the end, they go ahead and put together a letter of determination to the village board that either they approve the project or they don't approve the project. The board is under no obligation to go ahead and go by their recommendations.
So they're a recommending body.
The recommending body.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have somebody as the clearinghouse. And I have to say that probably, 98% of the time we go with what they say.
Okay.
Just because they are very good people on there, they ask the right questions, they do the right things. In this instance, they recommended to move the project forward. So then I take it on. So right away, I'm the one that's leading the project, wants the project, and I try to tell people it's not whether I want it or doesn't want it. It's once it comes in front of the board, it has to go ahead and go through the process and either be voted yes or voted no on. And it took us, I think it was 3 meetings at the village hall, and then we had a meeting, we had the last meeting that was voted on at the junior high school. And the meetings got very contentious, very vocal. It was probably, in all my years of village government, it was the worst time. And I think it was just because people acted just 180 degrees from what I ever seen before. I mean, it was hostile. It was ugly. Name calling. They were going to bury us on the ski hill. I mean, it was rough. It was. Oh yeah, it was. And it's funny now. You probably think about it. Well, the one funny part was, I hate to say it, is I'm a car nut. I had my Chrysler 300 parked in my driveway. So somewhere the last week before the vote was taken, somebody took a baseball bat or a lead pipe and went up and down the passenger side of my car and did $3,300 worth of damage.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I think they were going to intimidate me with something. And I got a police report. I even got I carry the bill with me because some people didn't believe me at the time. And I said, I sure as hell didn't go out there with a baseball bat and do that to myself. But you know what? It got ugly. So in the end, it got voted down 4-2, which was fine. I'm not going to lose any. I mean, that was the process. That's what happened.
Right.
But here, I'm the one. I brought it there. I wanted it. Blah blah blah. And from day one, the people that brought it to the Planning Commission, we had all these outsiders that lived in the area or around where it was going to be. They came to the Planning Commission with all these things that he was going to be dumping garbage, he was going to pollute the water, he was going to, I mean, just scenarios that nobody ever thought of except for them to make him look bad. So what ended up happening, it started off with a negative connotation from day one, and it just went downhill from there.
Sure.
So, okay, I understand, that's good. And in fact, they ended up hiring an attorney, and the attorney did all their presentations and stuff, and, came to the village board meetings. So, all right. So then that went away. Well, then they turned over to the recycling center that's over there on 120 and Wilson Road. And the recycling center has been there forever. We started that. Dan started that. He signed the contracts to put that together. The village had bought that property because they thought there was going to be a hospital was going to go there. So they were saving the land, going to hopefully sell it to the hospital. Well, that fell through. Tried to get some business in there, some big box business of some kind in there. We wanted to get a grocery store. Nobody would touch it because you have Woodman's and you got Myers here, and
Sure.
all the big box stores, all the grocery stores we'd go to, and they would say, "You got Myers there, Woodman's there. We ain't touching this."
Huh.
So the land sat there. We're paying thousands of dollars a year in mortgage rates on this land. So Mr. Powell came and said he was going to do a recycling center. Well, fine. So he was paying us per load and stuff. So we made a few $100,000. And it helped. That money went to do some projects and stuff in the village. Well, right after the people found out that the ski hill was presented by Mr. Powell, and then he also owned the recycling center. The two of them got interlaced, and it just went downhill again, literally, figuratively. So he's polluting this, polluting that. I mean, he doesn't bury nothing. He takes in dirt. He takes in clay. He takes in concrete. They took the old Winchester House down in Libertyville, if you remember what that was. Took all those bricks, all that concrete, brought them over here, beat it up, and they sold it back to the state as gravel.
Uh-huh.
I mean, recycling. I don't know if anybody remembers in the old days when I was a kid, my grandfather and my dad had a building thing. When you got done with a building project, they took bulldozers out back behind the lots and stuff. They dug a hole that was 20 feet deep and buried everything.
Yep.
I mean, that's when they, God knows. I always wonder what's out there sometimes. But I mean, he doesn't do that. Yeah, people don't like it. There were some fires out there that he had a lot of recycled trees and leaves and stuff. They caught fire. And we had some problems with it. And but now it's become a bone of contention. Again, I'm getting blamed for it. Didn't have anything to do with starting it. And we already have told him as a board that the contract runs out in 2027. We're not renewing it. So it's going to go away. So he's got till then to go ahead and figure out what he's going to do, or he's going to buy a new hunk of land. And he's told me he's working on that. And he's going to remove that stuff, and it'll be gone. But, that's, I guess being in politics, I'm not surprised. I knew they were going to come after me for this. And I could sit here and talk and tell them what happened like I am right now. They're not going to believe it. It's, they're going to believe that they want to. If they don't want to, hey, I can't change their minds. So, I'm the bad guy that was going to bring in a ski hill and poison everybody, and now we've got a recycling center. And that's the trouble. But I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people could disagree with you, but at least they disagreed with you, and they weren't so violent about it. Mm-hmm. And I think today the whole atmosphere, and even in national politics,
especially seeing that everywhere right now,
seeing that daily.
It has, and I enjoyed. If you want to saw me, I have a friend of mine who always kidded me for years that you're a politician and stuff. But I said, to me, it wasn't a bad connotation. I loved the village. I loved working with the village. I liked working with the people. I was in the JCs for 20-some years. I was twice president, did a lot of stuff out here. We built parks and stuff. I've been the Knights of Columbus, been in the Knights of Columbus for almost 25 years through the church. I mean, I enjoy working in the community. I enjoy working with the kids, with the people. I don't plan to ever leave here. I get these offers every once in a while in the mail. I will sell your house. You could go move. And I go, where am I going to move to? I'm going to be buried right here. So I told my between my wife
on
and
the ski hill.
Yeah, on the ski hill. Yeah.
In the hole in the backyard with the junk that they use.
Yeah, the garbage dump. But I like this area. I don't care what people want to say. People, I think you make of an area where you live, what you contribute to it.
Yeah.
And I think so many people. I ask a lot of people if they want to do something, get on the board, help out with it. I don't have time. I can't do this. I can't do that. I says, I don't know. I worked a full-time job. I was coaching. I was doing. I always found time, though, to go work with the church or work with the school kids and do stuff. I mean, it was just, I guess if you want to do something, you find time to do that.
So, Russ, as a politician, you got to have a thick skin, right? We all know that. At any point, does it ever, because I'm sure when you come into any project, you mean well, right? You think this might be a good amenity, not people may agree, people might disagree. But when it gets nasty like that, does it ever hurt?
You know what? It hurts to some degree. I tell you what hurt me worse was, I think what they did to my car. I mean, I could understand them. They wanted words are words, and yeah, it hurts. But when you start destroying my property, and then my wife has to listen to it, and my grandkids are so proud. They're my grandpa's the mayor and stuff, and then the stuff got getting ugly and things, and then it starts to affect the rest of the family. And I think that's what hurts me the most is that I'm built to take it. I can take it. Look, I ain't afraid of nothing. I ain't afraid of nobody.
Yep.
But my wife didn't sign up for this. My grandkids and my kids didn't sign up for
Holly,
this.
if you're listening, you're not the only one.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the hard part is. The people that are running the country. I mean, I can understand. Somebody said, why don't we get better leaders in some of the other positions? Because the people that probably would like to do it
are too smart
because they know what's going to happen. They're going to go after their family or what the hell they did when they were in college.
Yep.
At 20 years old, he smoked pot. Well, you know what? That was a bad thing. Now, today it's a lot different. But, I mean, people use what you did, umpteen years ago.
Yeah.
I think until you're 30, you're growing up. Leave it alone. You don't back and dig in somebody's background and say, unless they did something really bad. But I mean, but then don't drag the family into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, the family isn't running for it, but yet that's what happens today.
I always thought, so local politics, we talk about this a lot, especially recently with the upcoming elections. Local politics are really the most important things in most of our lives, because this is, I'm not in your town, but what you do affects me directly, right? If I lived in your town, it affects me directly. And you raise a good point. People, not only do they not want to, volunteer on committees, they also don't even want to show up to meetings and just kind of calmly express, hey, here's something I thought. Years ago when I had been living here about 10 years when I started to become activated in local what's going on boards. Started with the school board. They were trying to kind of change the school boundaries. We didn't want that to happen. And I started getting involved. And then I started saying, well, instead of getting involved only in reaction to something negative, I want to start getting involved in making things positive. Getting involved in starting to volunteer. Beach Fest was every year. Started getting involved in, volunteering for Beach Fest. And instead of just kind of being that rabble-rouser, that zealot who's just like angry, is the best way to effectuate change is to have conversations, make friends, make connections, network with people, and start doing good. Start doing good for the community. Bring the positive you want to be to the community, and you have a bigger voice. You see a lot of people make that complaint after a board votes on something, especially if it doesn't go their way. Oh, they had their minds made up before they even... Well, yeah. You know why? Because they've been talking about this for 2 years, and you're probably not saying anything new that they haven't already considered, and staff has probably helped them do some research to come up with the reasonable response to that before you even said it at the 11th hour at that final board meeting.
Yes, that happens. And, I think, too, some people say transparency. And I can say since I have been mayor, even when I was a trustee and stuff, we don't hide stuff anymore. Things come to the village. And like I said, either they're going to come to a department or they're going to come to the planning commission. But we don't go in the back room and make deals and do things. I mean, it just isn't the way it's done. 25, 30 years ago, it was that way. And I know it was. I was involved in stuff. I mean, that was old-time politicians, old-time politics. Today, you're transparent. Somebody comes to the village with something, you're right up there, and you have to let everybody know. I let the board know. And we always look, people want to bring in a new business, and somebody goes, well, is it good or bad? I don't know, but you know what? If they want to bring a business in here, let's sit down, let's talk with them, let's see what they have to offer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I don't know, but until I find out about it, and you go through the research. So just because we entertain something doesn't mean that we're 100% for it or 100% against it. We're like everybody else. And if you don't know, I mean, unless it's a big box store or something that you already know about, but somebody brings it to business, darn it, it's the little businesses that are the backbone of any village, especially our village. Yeah. I mean, you go downtown, we have a bunch of little businesses. You go to our park, our commercial park, there's a bunch of little business. I mean, the businesses, the little businesses, the family businesses make us money. They bring us in tax dollars. And encouraging that. We got 2 stores empty right now downtown Round Lake. I can't wait for somebody to come in and decide that they want to do something. Like I said, and hopefully with the realignment of Cedar Lake Road, we're going to open up a bunch of new commercial areas. And I've already had a couple businessmen that said, we want to know when you guys decide to do that and plot out some land. 2 downtown businessmen have already said, we're going to build buildings, we're going to build our business here. So they're already planning ahead for that.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to encourage, because, you're going to keep those people here. We're going to hopefully keep our citizens in here spending their money. In the old days when you came to Round Lake, we had a furniture store. We had 3 different, had a kids, a men's, and a women's clothing store downtown. You had a drugstore downtown.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
before Amazon.
and downtown was a thriving place. Yeah. And it's definitely changed. I mean, it went away slowly but surely. And unfortunately, there's, trying to attract business today, people sometimes don't have it or don't want to spend the money because they're not sure what the future holds.
Well, look what else you see happen. You see this happening everywhere. I don't know if it happens in your community, but I see it happen on Lindenhurst all the time. All these neighborhood Facebook groups. Someone takes a risk, they put up their small business, they open up shop, and then someone always gets out there and like, that's the worst business ever. Don't shop there. They're terrible people. Blah, 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 blah. I saw them almost destroy RJ's once about 5 or 6 years ago because they held a fundraiser for, I don't remember what the fundraiser was for, but they held a fundraiser, and the people who organized the fundraiser knew everything that was going on, and some family member of what was going on was upset because the event had to tip out the servers for serving, what was this thing. But RJ's just donated the space and maybe donated some free pizzas. I don't know what the whole story was. And they just made them look so evil and tried to destroy them. As a small business owner, that scares me.
Well, yeah. And sometimes, like I said, one person says something like that, and all of a sudden it snowballs.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going. And if people would sit back and say, okay, calmly, look at this, is it really that bad?
Right.
No. So go find out yourself.
Right. Exactly. I love it. That's terrible. Don't do it. And then you have people say, oh, thank you for telling me. Now I'll never do it. How do you know you have the same taste as that person?
Exactly. I mean, everybody's different.
Give it a try.
And I downtown, like I said, it was thriving years ago. And today we've got some great businesses downtown, great businessmen. And people have been there for a long time. We got, Ace Hardware. Grief Corporation, we just honored. They got 40 years here in the village.
They're awesome.
They're awesome.
Skowski family's incredible.
Ace Hardware's been along for 25 or 30 years. He's been there forever. A Tire's been around. Mrs. O'Malley, she had her grocery store and stuff. We got the bakery. Like I said,
there. That's good too.
Coins bar and restaurant up in town. He's been there for 30 years. I mean, we have some long-term businesses, and I think maybe a lot of the newer people don't know what they are or who they are, and it'd be nice that they would knock on the doors and go see them, because these people are great. So me as a mayor, I go out to lunch sometimes more than I should, but I try to hit all the restaurants in the area, all the food places in the area, just to see them and talk with them and get to see what's going on with them. So it's that's the best I could do, is going around and just keep in touch and see what's going to happen. But I sure would look for more business, attract more business, and hopefully we go up.
We're almost out of time, so I just want to make sure that you get an opportunity. Do you have any events coming up, any meet and greets? Before you answer, just so you know, a couple things, because this is we have a special FCC license. It's community radio. You can't ask for the vote. You can't tell people to go anywhere. There can't be any calls to action. You could tell me having an event. You could tell them when and where, but there can't be any cost that you say the cost, or even if it's free, you can't say it's free. So there's your
well, I'll make it easy for you. I don't. I've been a one-man army. I've been doing the signs. I said, you see my mailer that went out this week. I was going to, I know my competitions had a lot of stuff. The thing I found out, it's better, I'd rather go talk. I've been making a lot of phone calls. I have a lot of people that are backing me making phone calls. And, it's, to me, it's more time. It's better spent that way. I mean, you get 5 or 10 people out at these meet and greets, and you spend a couple hours, and it just doesn't really pan out. A lot of times you see the same people. So I would rather, someday, I thought somebody said that they were going to try to get a debate together at some point in time. I think something like that.
Kind of a little late for that. I don't see that happening.
But I was hoping that they would. They were saying this in the beginning.
Next Wednesday on Unlocking Lake County.
Actually, his opponent will be here next Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes, he will. And but that, to me, I think having something like that where we could stand in front of hopefully 100 or 200 people. They did in the old days at the high school. The old days they had some debates. We haven't done that again in years. It just hasn't happened that way.
Yeah. Russ, I want to thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for taking time out. It was a pleasure talking with you. Sly, anyone want to get a hold of you? How do they do it?
847-722-1775 or slymarinca.com.
And then I want to do a shout out. We have a new construction house that was just finished in Round Lake Beach. We're going to be having a cocktail party. Everyone's welcome to come on over. It's at 2174 North Orchard Lane. They did a great job on this house, and I want to show it off to the community. So kind of wine and cheese cocktail party. So that's Friday night between 6 and 9 p.m. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. This is Dick Barr signing out with Unlocking Lake County. Have a great week. We'll see you next week with Round Lake trustee Brian Brubaker. Take care.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the heart of our community, exploring the ins and outs of real estate and meeting the people who make Lake County truly remarkable. Remember, every property has a story, and every community member holds a key to unlocking our county's full potential. Don't miss out on discovering more hidden gems and expert insights. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon for another episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Until then, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep unlocking the possibilities that await you in Lake County. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.